Hey guys, welcome to the 911 Strong podcast. On today's episode, we're bringing in special guest, Krista Moreland.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, you and Krista have some history together, right?
We do. One of my fun events.
Yeah, you guys are both not just first responder wives, but you guys are in the nutrition and fitness world.
Yes. Yeah.
So Krista's going to join us in a little bit and talk to us a little bit about counting macros and how to eat healthy and what it means to have a healthy lifestyle. It's not just a diet, it's something that we adopt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Can't wait to have Krista on.
Me too.
Stay tuned, because when we come back...
When we come back, we will be talking with Krista.
That's it. See ya.
Station to all units.
Prepare to copy.
You're listening to the 911 Strong podcast.
Don't act like I never told you.
With Aram and Kristen, bringing you stimulating discussion.
No, I like the sound of that.
An entertaining conversation.
And now, here's Kristen and Aram.
Hey guys, welcome back to the 911 Strong podcast. Today we're fortunate enough to be joined by nutritionist Krista Moreland. Hey Krista.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So our audience is probably going to benefit a lot from this because, like me, I'm going to graveyard shift here next week.
Yep.
Just have no idea how I'm going to manage eating my meals and trying to stay within my macros and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I'll probably resort to fast food eating. But,
I'm going to help you with that, friend. Don't you worry about it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of us that that will benefit from the information that you'll give us today. But before we get started, let's learn a little bit about who Krista is. You guys have some history together, right?
We do.
Yeah.
I've probably changed a little bit because I took some time off, so I'll be hopping back on the macro train. But we met at Fitposium in Arizona when we were talking to magazine editors and stuff, and just got talking about first responders. And she learned I was a dispatcher. My husband's an officer, and her husband's a firefighter. And then we have kids and our crazy schedules with them and running around trying to take them to games and just hit it off. And we've been in touch ever since. And so
there's been an instant connection, right?
Yes.
Well, you guys have so much in common. You both have 3 kids and both first responder wives, and you both are in the fitness world. I mean, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
No, it's a lot to have in common.
Yeah. And it's just weird. Like, I'm telling you, when I go to these things, Aram, I meet the most amazing people.
Krista, you have a fitness background that extends from college, right? You were a college athlete.
Yeah, I do. I actually was a 2-sport college athlete at Grand Canyon University here in Arizona. I got recruited. I got a full ride scholarship to play volleyball for my university. And then my junior year, they started a softball program. So I will forever be in the history books as playing on the first inaugural softball team at Grand Canyon University. Yeah. So the great thing about that too is that, I got to set a lot of firsts for my school, and I will forever own those. And that, fills my athletic heart to the brim. But I also met my firefighter husband there as well. He was a catcher for our school's baseball team as well. So both have an athletic background. We both love fitness. Wasn't ever really super in love with nutrition. I kind of found my way there. But definitely love the whole health and fitness world for sure.
Right. So you got some good genes flowing in that family there. I hear 2 of your kids are athletes now?
Oh, yeah. So my daughter plays competitive soccer, and my son plays competitive baseball. And they're big kids. Both my daughter and my son, they're built thick and athletic and hard to break. And we are just so loving and enjoying being on the ball field all weekend. And literally, I mean, like 7 to 10 games in a weekend. But it's where we want to be. We love it.
Yeah. So you talked about while you were a college athlete, you didn't really put a lot of emphasis on nutrition and macros and all that stuff. That sort of happened later in life for you, right? After kids.
Yeah, it did. It's funny. I can joke about it and laugh about it now. But if you follow me on my Instagram account or the blogs that I write, I actually talk about my breakdown being my biggest breakthrough. And Brene Brown, if you guys follow her at all, she talks about her breakdown as being her spiritual awakening. And I would love to church mine up like that, but mine was more like a toddler meltdown in the bathtub, because that's exactly where I was, in the most vulnerable space that a woman can be, naked, sitting in the bathtub after a crazy day with 3 little kids. And I remember looking down at my body and being like, who are you? Whose legs are those? Whose belly is that? Like, all you do in a day is get sippy cups and snacks and snot and crying. Like, who are you? I had completely and totally lost myself in becoming a mom, and the walls just came crashing down. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys can relate to that, but I was just like, oh yeah, where is that strong college bold athlete? Where did she go? And I wanted some of her back so bad.
Yeah, no, I can totally relate to that, because you kind of lose yourself and your mom identity, and you lose your original identity before you had kids, and we don't know how to merge the two, and we're just kind of blindly navigating it.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think a lot of us have been there.
Or are there. At the time, I didn't have an appreciation. You know, people would say like, own your mommy stripes or own the change. And I'm like, no, I want my college volleyball butt back, and I want my college volleyball waist back. Like, I'm not owning any of this. Yeah. And, you know, I'm there now. I can look at my body now and look at these things and think there's something really beautiful about it, but there was a process to it, and it took time. Right. So my husband comes in. Yeah. My husband comes into the bathroom and he's like, what is going on in here? And I'm like, I lost it. I was like, I need to do something different. So my first beat was, I need to get my butt back in the gym. So I go to the gym and I'm working out, and men and women can relate to this. When you are overweight or unhealthy, the gym hurts. My knees hurt, my back hurt, my feet hurt, my ankles hurt. So I was doing all these movements and frustrated because my body didn't move like it used to, because I was carrying an extra 35 pounds on my frame. Wow. Mm-hmm. And so it was at that moment that I realized, okay, I need to dial in my nutrition. We all know you can't outdo a bad diet in the gym. So I started doing paleo, and I did paleo for 3 years. And I really found the benefit of whole foods and healthy foods and understood that. But the problem is, you can still overeat healthy foods. So I didn't lose the weight. I felt better. My GI felt better. My brain fog felt better. But I was still overweight because I was still overeating all the healthy foods. And that's when I found macro tracking and had a macro coach who taught me how to stay within the boundaries that were going to allow me to feel the way that I wanted to feel in my skin. And it's been history ever since. I've just loved this process and what I do, and I hit the road running.
Do you, just for our audience that may not know some of the terms, you want to tell us what the difference is between like calorie counting and macro counting?
Yeah.
Or what a macronutrient is?
Totally. So most of us don't know, some of us do know, that all calories are not created equal, right? We know that a fat gram is higher in caloric value than a carbohydrate or a protein gram. And so it's really important that we know what our macros are. And your macros are your proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Everybody eats macros. I ask people, do you macro? And they're like, oh, no. That's way too. And I'm like, yes, you do. You eat foods. Everybody macros. It's just whether you know how to pay attention to your boundaries or not, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's all it is, your proteins, fats, and your carbs. And if you know what your budget is and you know what your goals are and you can set boundaries for those goals, then you can see great body composition shifts and changes. And the other beautiful thing about macro tracking and knowing what your macros are is that you don't have to say no to the foods that you love, because you can make them work within your day. And that was what I fell in love with when I started this process, because my biggest fear was being hungry. I did not want to be hungry, and I didn't want to give up an ice cream sandwich. Like, I've given up a lot of things, people. I don't play volleyball anymore. I'm at home with the kids doing all the things. Please don't make me give up anything else. Yeah. And so that was my way of keeping it.
So you can essentially fit some of the foods that you love as long as they fit within your macros.
Yeah, totally. So I kind of look at it, people can wrap their brain around a budget a lot easier than macros, right? And so I use this analogy all the time. If I give you $100 to go shopping, and what's your favorite place to go shopping at?
Well, Target.
Okay, exactly. Well, you know,
So
I
love
love
a higher amount for our budget.
Yes. So you have $1,000 to go shopping with. That changes the game, huh? Exactly. So let's say that you go to Target with $100 and you go in there and you shop and you go to the checkout register and it's exactly $100. You're excited, you leave, you hop in your car, you get home, you use all the things and you're happy about it. But let's say you go to Target and you walk up to the register and they're like, that's $250. You're like, shoot. So you give them the $100 bill and then you put $150 on a credit card. The feeling when you leave is drastically different. You have buyer's remorse. You're wondering if you should take something back. And now you're in debt to the money that you had. And it's the same thing with our diet. When we spend within our means, because we have these goals, we feel good, we feel fueled, we feel energized, and we have no guilt and no anxiety about what we're doing in our day. But when we have to put our food on credit and borrow for the next day to have something that we want, that's when the food guilt kicks in. That's when we see body fat gain. That's when we see things that we don't want to happen. And so the beautiful thing is that if you know you have a budget of $100, then we can go throughout the store or our pantry and make sure that we stay within that budget, right? And we can feel good about it in our day. And we get to say, like, is it peanut butter we're buying today, or is it a steak? Because the amount of fat is going to be the same, but the protein content will be different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds so much easier. I mean, you're not really limiting the types of foods you're eating, because during the pre-show, we were talking about some of the fad diets that are out there. And you mentioned at work, some of the diets that the guys are following. What are the ones that they're doing?
Why am I drawing a blank now that you're putting me on the spot?
I think one of them
keto. Keto's become more popular, I think, within our department.
Yeah.
And then, I think
intermittent fasting too.
Yeah,
right?
Intermittent fasting along with the keto, or just doing it separate altogether.
But with keto, you can't have your ice cream sandwich or peanut butter.
It's more limiting.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, no matter what diet you pick, it's going to work to some extent.
Absolutely.
It's just whether or not you can make a lifestyle out of it.
So for someone like me, and I'm sure your husband who works odd hours, it sounds like when I go to a different shift, my days off when I'm awake as opposed to my nights when I'm awake make it really hard to intermittent fast. Either I'm cutting those hours or I'm extending those hours. Either way, I'm not happy. So counting macros, I can adjust my macronutrients based on the time I'm awake.
Absolutely. And so you're getting into a little bit of a tricky spot with going into night shift, right? Because your sleep rhythm is totally going to be disrupted, which absolutely disrupts our GI tract and stuff like that. So I have just a few little tips for you and any of the other guys that are doing night shift stuff. So what you'll want to do is when you're eating during shift is you want to keep your carbohydrates lower. Because the body, your insulin response is totally different because your body is expecting you to be asleep. Whether you do night shift for 20 years or not, your body still is on a certain rhythm and it wants to be asleep at that time. So nighttime carbs are really important that you keep them low and keep them quality. Quality is really important. So what I mean by that is less processed foods, more whole foods with fiber in it, right? So we want to look at complex carbs versus simple carbs. The other thing too is that it's really important that you stay on a schedule and give your body some type of consistency, even when you're out of the rhythm that it wants to be in, right? And then the other thing is, and I know this is really hard for moms and dads, especially coming off of the night shift, is when you get off that you go directly to sleep. Try your hardest to go right to bed right away, because that will allow your hormones to kind of reset themselves a little bit better than if you stay up another 4 or 5 hours, go to the gym and require a lot more from your body at the end of your shift. So I know that was a little off the cuff, but
no, that's very helpful. I think one of the things that people are going to ask right off the bat, though, if people are interested in following your program and just macro counting, is how does somebody calculate their macros? How, your macros are going to be obviously different than mine, than Kristen's. What do you offer a calculator on your site, or is there?
I don't, and I'll tell you why. There are a million calculators out there. Precision Nutrition has a phenomenal one. I have my level 1 and 2 nutrition certification from them, and their calculator is fantastic. But here's the problem. It's not looking at you as a human. It's looking at you as mathematical equations and statistics, right? And here's what I have found, and here's why I feel like my clients find the success that they do, is that I meet you where you are. So let's say that in your day-to-day, you're eating 80 grams of fat, 180 carbohydrates, and 65 grams of protein, which is not enough protein, right? We want to eat around 0.8 to 1 gram per body pound of protein. But let's say that I do your algorithms and your math, and it tells me that you should be eating 55 grams of fat, but you're eating 80 something right now. So I'm going to give that to you, and that's going to feel super restrictive, and you're likely not going to move your macros up because people don't have that confidence in doing that. And so you're not going to do it for very long. And this is what we fall into with keto and other diets that restrict from us, is that we can't do them for a lifetime. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to do something that's going to be fleeting. I don't want to put in my mind, my energy, my money into something that isn't going to teach me how to do something long-term and for a lifetime. And so, yeah, you can drop weight pretty fast doing all these fad diets, but the second you go back to what you feel like is your norm or what you want out of your diet, it comes back with a vengeance.
Oh, yeah.
And right. And so it's so
right
much. Yeah.
Yep.
We've all been there. And that's how we learn, right? Like, listen.
My body's taking revenge on myself.
Yeah.
This is a no judgment zone. I've been there. I've done it. I've learned from experience. And so my biggest goal anytime that I talk to people is find something that fits you. Let's stop stuffing a circle into a square into a circle. You're neither one of those. Reach out and find out and spend the time understanding and discovering what's going to work for you. So to answer your question, it's really hard for me to look at somebody and say, how much do you weigh? How much do you work out? How old are you? And then set their macros, because it's not going to be what they need. It's important that somebody meets you where you are and takes you where you want to go and teaches you how you got there so that you can do it for the rest of your life. That's the key.
That's awesome. Yeah. So my wife's been counting macros for a long time, and she doesn't, I remember when she first started, she was actually counting and calculating. But she's got it so down packed now that second nature, she knows exactly what she can eat, and it's in her mind. Exactly. So yeah, I think it's super easy. Yeah. I have firsthand witness account of it. Not firsthand experience, but it's something that someone like me, we have a lot of listeners out there that are first responders that are in the same position as I am, would probably benefit from something like this. I'm excited to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think more than anything, macro tracking is like the gateway to mindful eating, because the truth is, I ask a client at the beginning, like, show me what 4 ounces of chicken looks like. And depending on the person, they're like, 4 ounces of chicken. And I'm like, 4 ounces of chicken, right? Yeah. And so what macro tracking does, and paying attention to our food and knowing the value, right? Like, what does it cost me to eat this meal? What it does is it draws extreme awareness to what the value is that you're consuming in your day. And until we measure it and look at it and go, oh, that's a tablespoon of peanut butter, not a tablespoon of peanut butter. Right, not a tablespoon of peanut butter. Yeah. It's really hard for us to know, And so I know that it sounds like a lot of work, and I know that it sounds like overwhelm and extreme, but how will you learn to know what 4 ounces looks like, to know what your body needs, if you don't pay attention to that? The truth is, the things that are important to us, we measure. If you can measure it, you can manage it, right? Our kids' grades get measured. We keep score at baseball, softball, volleyball games because we want to measure the outcome. And so we measure our money because we want to make it work for us, and we want to measure the outcome. So why would we not do it with the most important thing in our life, which is our health, right? Our longevity on this earth. If it's important to us, we should measure it and manage it and take care of it.
Right. I guess the whole point of this is to minimize body fat too. It's not just body composition. I mean, obviously you want
Absolutely.
to look good,
Yeah.
but body fat has so many detrimental factors to it. Like it messes in men, it increases estrogen.
Yep.
Which is not a good thing.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit more about some of the detriments body fat has
Yeah. I mean, it's hard on the heart. It's hard on your GI system. Firemen and police officers especially are already demanding so much of their body, so much of your heart, right? And I know both departments take really good care of that and keep a really good eye on it. And I can't tell you how many firemen I have worked with. We have Heart Fit for Duty here, and they have blood work taken often.
Oh, wow.
And simply bringing in a balanced diet. I have statistics from a fireman that I worked with. The doctor was like, I don't know what you are doing, but keep doing it. And all he was doing was adding a balanced diet into his day, knowing what balance looks like for him, completely and totally changed his blood work in 6 months.
Oh, wow.
In 6 months. I've had several clients get taken off of their diabetes medication because they are handling their food appropriately. And so there's a lot of illnesses that can be brought on by being overweight and having too much body fat, right? Mm-hmm. And it's important that we don't just focus on the scale, because the scale is not everything, right? The scale doesn't measure how strong you are. It doesn't measure how resilient you are. And so it's important to focus on those aspects as you go through any nutritional journey. But we definitely got to make sure that we're staying within those healthy ranges, especially when we demand so much of our body in a day.
That's awesome. Good tips.
Yeah. So for us beginners, where would they start? Do you suggest an app? Do you suggest writing down? What apps are your favorite for that?
That's such a good question. So I would say there's a beginner, and then a more interested beginner, and then somebody who's like, this is what I'm ready to do. Mm-hmm. So for somebody who is just starting to think about their nutrition, I think having a food log is the first best step. So I want you to, the night before, then write down everything you want to eat in the day. And then your plan is just to stick to the things that you wrote down. I think it'll draw so much awareness of how much grazing or grabbing the donuts that we didn't know were coming in the break room, and grabbing the handful of almonds, right? Because if you didn't put a handful of almonds on there, you don't eat it.
Yeah.
And if you didn't put the donut on there because you didn't know Susie was bringing him into the office or the break room, then you don't eat it, right? And so that draws extreme awareness. And if somebody is like, well, listen, I'm already past that part, I've already been thinking about my health and fitness, then I suggest that they download MyFitnessPal and that they start tracking their food. And they can do the same thing. They can put their food in the night before in MyFitnessPal so they know where they stand. But for sure, tracking it as they go so that they can evaluate at the end of the day, like, whoa, that was way more food than I needed in a day, right? And then if somebody's really serious about, like, listen, I've tried all the things, I'm not getting anywhere, I need somebody to show me, grow me, and teach me. Well, of course, I'm always here available and ready to chat about those things. But I would look at hiring a coach, a mentor, somebody to show you how to do this. And it's really important that when you hire a coach, that they aren't just telling you what to do, that they are showing you and teaching you how to do it. Because this is, if they really care about what you do post-coaching, they will teach you how to do this for a lifetime so that you can do this forever, not just for a moment of weight loss. That's the most frustrating part about losing weight, is we don't want it to be fleeting.
Yeah.
I think that's why I respect what you're doing so much. You're not trying to be there throughout their life, although I'm sure you'll be there to mentor them, but you're teaching people to be independent. You're teaching people to do this themselves. Now, if someone from our audience wants to find you and get started up with you, how would they find you?
Yeah. So I would love for you guys to come hang out with me on Instagram. I feel like that's visually the most fun. But my handle is the same on Facebook and on Instagram. It's KMOREMACRO, which is Kmore Macro. And if you want to email me, you'll find my email and my information all over both of those places. But it's just Krista at Kmore Macro, and it's Krista with a K. But I would love for y'all to come hang out, say hello, let me know that you came from the 911 podcast, and just say hi. I would love that.
Yeah, right before we knew we were having you on the show, I did some research on your page, and it's super, super fun.
Thank you.
You get real personal and share your family lifestyle, which I totally respect because that's what both of us do.
Yeah.
But before we end our chat, I have to ask this question.
Yeah.
Who's in better shape, cops or firefighters?
I'm going to say cops, right?
Hey, awesome. I have to have Krista back on again.
Exactly. Hey, let's just be honest.
Well, I was actually surprised. I thought you were going to say firefighters because they have access to.
Well, maybe his house of firefighters is more fit and well off.
Yeah.
Most of
what I found about police and firemen is people are people. And we've got such a great mix of all of them in both places.
It's funny though, you always have you see a stereotype when it comes to cops and firefighters. I mean, with cops, exclusive to cops, donuts. You never see a donut stereotype associated with firefighters. No. But I tell you what, every time I go into the firehouse, our local there's always a spread of donuts.
Yeah. And the stereotype for firemen, right, is that they get to sleep in the lazy boy and that they're always in the lazy boys, right? But the funny thing about that is most of the time when I go visit my husband, especially in his South Phoenix stations, I see the cops sleeping in the lazy boys. And I'm like, well, isn't that cute?
I'm not going to say I've ever done this before, but if I happened to be a patrol guy and it was slow and I wanted to watch TV or play
that's the secret though, huh?
Yeah. It's the safest place to close your eyes. That's for sure.
It really is.
Yeah, it is.
Unless you get too close to them and they do pranks on you.
Yeah, they draw stuff on your face.
That's for a different show. Well, Chris, thanks so much for joining us. We learned a lot. I think we probably have a lot of people that are going to ask more questions, so they'll probably ask for you to come back one day if you're up to it.
I have had so much fun today. It would be my pleasure to come back and just chat with y'all. I would love it.
Awesome.
Yay.
Well, we're going to put where they can find you and your website on our show notes.
Yes.
And hopefully the next time we talk, we'll have an update because I think right after this, I'm going to get started with counting macros.
We should do like a check-in.
Yeah, that would be good. See where we're at in 6 months. I think so because I'm ready. I'm so over where I'm at right now.
Too.
Yep.
And I forgot to mention though that if they want to get just like a little taste of what you're about and what you do, you said you have some free downloads too.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yes. I will share those links with you guys. I've got, one of them is like a 5-10 minute meals for the person on the go. I say mama because mama are my people, but listen, everyone eats food, right? So I would love to share that with you guys. And these are kind of my emergency meals. Like when I didn't meal plan or we get home at 8:00 at night and I'm like, I don't know what's for dinner. These are like my go-tos. And listen, they're nothing fancy, but sometimes it's just about fueling your body and eating good food instead of having it blow your taste buds, right? So there's 5-10 minute meal ideas. And then I also have a 3 coaching mini series that I would love to share with you guys, where in the first video, I really go through how to plan your week of foods in like 5 minutes. Because that's the hardest part, right? And I loathe that question, what's for dinner? So if I can tackle that question before it's even asked, I'm all about it. So I want to help you guys tackle that as well.
Awesome.
That's great. Yeah, I'll look into that. So we'll put that in our show notes and everything.
Absolutely.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. We certainly learned a lot, and we're definitely going to have you back. And I hope our listeners get to go onto the show notes and find you, because I think it'd be fun for some of the 911 Strong folks to head over there and interact with you.
Definitely.
Awesome. I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we know you have a choice to listen to any podcast out there, and we thank you for spending time with us on the 911 Strong podcast. Download us, share us with your friends, and give us 5 stars. And we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
You've been listening to the 911 Strong podcast with Aram and Kristen. You can subscribe to the 911 Strong podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and many other fine podcast platforms. You can also see the in-studio recording on YouTube. Just search 911 Strong. We value your opinion. Please leave us a review, and we would really appreciate a 5-star rating. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to tell your friends about us.